Even though capitalism has been conventionally described as an economic system, it is actually a deeply entrenched legal system. In this special episode of the book series, we examine a study of the legal underpinnings of capitalism, the reasons why the system must be transformed, and the actions we can take. Viewers and listeners, thank you so much for joining us. We're finally joined on the book series by Katharina Pistor. She is the author of this new book, The Law of Capitalism and How to Transform It. It is a new book that's coming out of Yale University Press, and it was published under the series entitled New Legal Synthesis. Katharina Pistor, thank you so much for making the time, and good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
That is nice. I want, our audience to first get to know you more and the amazing work that you are doing. You have a very wonderful CV. I have to take a lot of minutes to sit down and just read about the stuff that you have done. That's pretty amazing. But I just want you to talk about it so that our audience can get to know who you are and what you have been doing before the publication of this book.
Yes. So, it's already a long history because I'm getting a little older, but I just want to highlight some important points that might explain why I think about the world in the way I do. So I'm from Germany, and I did my legal training in Germany, but I also got a little bored by only doing German law in the late 1980s. And I was fascinated by the fact that in the 1980s, quite a few Chinese scholars came from China to Germany to study again the German civil law, because they have an old connection to that legal system. But it struck me as curious, because after the Cultural Revolution, why would you go back to the civil code of Germany? Anyway, so I decided then to do an LLM in London, a Master of Laws in London, where I enrolled for Chinese law. And my advisor, my mentor there, suggested that I also do Soviet law. So this was 88, 89. And I studied Chinese and Soviet law. In the summer of 89, when we were writing exams, the Tiananmen Square incident happened. And in the fall of 89, when I came back to Germany, the wall fell. So that changed my perspective on the world, and I had decided already during my year in London, where I studied, to focus on the transformation of these systems of socialism into something else. I don't like the term transition, but transformation. And so for the next 10 years at least, I studied mostly the transformation in Russia, but also other Eastern European countries, privatization, and the development of a new legal system. And what struck me also there is that most economists who were advising these countries completely ignored the importance of the law. They thought you can just get the state out and markets will spring out of nowhere and shares will be traded without, a corporate law or shareholder registry. So they basically were always behind in trying to create the legal structures once they discovered that they needed them. But by that time, of course, lots of things, bad things also had happened. Mm-hmm. So I really got fascinated by the processes by which societies get transformed. And I don't think it was a successful story in Eastern Europe and Russia, but I was fascinated by the role of law in that context. And when in the 2000s, around 2006-07, in the financial crisis started, when you saw housing market flatten out, you saw stress in the financial system, you saw that the CEOs of major banks went to Qatar and Singapore to go to sovereign wealth funds and try to get support. I thought that's really interesting. Something is happening here. And so I began to study the transformation of capitalism. That led me to write a paper in 2013 as a result of a collective research project, which I called The Legal Theory of Finance, or A Legal Theory of Finance, where I developed some of the foundational ideas that I then published in my book, The Code of Capital, which came out 6 years ago in 2019. I can say more about that book, but that's the foundation for this book. Because in the Code of Capital, I offered a diagnosis of how capital is coded in law. And in this book, I'm trying to explain the system that emerges from these kind of principles.